Welcome back, everybody. In this video, our focus is going to be lesson number 37. And in lesson number 37, we are continuing to learn some new material, new concepts, and the like. Right away, you can see that you are no longer playing chord notes again. And those might be mistaken as eighth notes since we just learned eighth notes in the previous lesson, but you would also be incorrect. These are new note values, and these note values are called 16th notes. Now, a 16th note is a subdivision of an eighth note. Just like an eighth note is a subdivision of a quarter note, we're just getting into smaller and smaller and smaller note values. So a quarter note is one count that can be divided into two counts. And then we have one and then and, one and. These two eighth notes could also be subdivided into two equal parts. So now we have in one count 4 different notes that we can play. And all 4 of these notes would be played within the same duration as the 2 eighth notes and as the single quarter note. Okay? The way we count 16th notes are 1, E, and A. And all of those are going to equal 1 count. So there is your explanation on 16th notes. And you'll notice they are connected from the top, on the top of their stem, just like the eighth notes, but these are connected with 2 lines on top. You will see these you will see these 16th notes in groups of 4. You will see them in pairs of just 2, and you will also see them as a single eighth note. Obviously, in this lesson, they're going to be in groups of 4. So those are your 16th notes. Actually, you know what? Let me play the 16th notes. So here is your, we'll go from quarter note to 16th, to eighth note to 16th note. So here's your quarter note count. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's your quarter note. You're playing on each count only once. Your eighth note becomes 1, 2, 3, 4. We're not changing tempo. We're not playing faster. We're simply playing more counts within the same amount of time, within the same duration. 3, 4. 16th notes would sound like this. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a... But we didn't slow down. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and stop. See how I didn't slow down? The count was always the same. So we're not speeding up, we're playing more. I'm going to keep stressing that. So those are your 16th notes. All right. Now let's go over the time signature. This is the first time we're coming across a different time signature. Up until this point, we were playing everything in 4/4 or common time, right? Those are interchangeable. Now we are playing in a time signature of 3/4. So all you need to know, and all I'm going to explain to you, is instead of counting to 4, you're just going to count to 3. The top number of the time signature is going to tell you what to count to. If that 3 were a 2, you would count 1, 2, 1, 2. If it were a 5, you count to 5. If it were a 9, you count to 9. But because it's a 3, we're going to count to 3. So that means every measure is going to have 3 counts instead of 4. So, for example, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. It's got a different feel. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 16 notes. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Stop. All right. So that is your time signature. Now we have something, we have more. We have more. We now have our introduction to accidentals. And there are going to be 2 accidentals that are introduced in this lesson. One is the sharp sign, and the other is the natural sign. So let's go over the sharp sign. On the 3rd note of this lesson, we have an F. It's here. But this F that you see here, the third note, or the second F that's notated, has a sharp sign right in front of it. That sharp sign is telling you that F is going to be raised or moved 1/2 step higher. On the guitar, that translates to 1 fret higher. So the third note, that F with the sharp sign, which is now called F sharp, is going to be on the 2nd fret, right here. So we have the first note, E, which is open. We have F, first fret, and now we have an F sharp, and that's going to be here. The next note is G. We all know how to play G. You should know how to play G. Okay. The note following that, the 5th note, or the first 16th note of the second group of 16th notes, there is a sharp sign in front of that G. So again, that sharp sign means you're going to move that note, whatever the note happens to be, 1/2 step higher, or on the guitar, 1 fret higher. So it's going to be here, and it's going to be called G sharp. And you're going to continue on through A sharp. Oh, I should go over that. A is open. If there's a sharp sign next to an open string, you're simply going from 0 frets to the 1st fret. From 0 fret or open to the 1st fret. That's your A sharp. And then we have B, and then we have C, and then we have C sharp. C sharp is going to be 1 fret higher than C, and you're going to play that with your pinky here, just like that. And you go all the way up to the 1st string, E. When you get here, we're going to start to work our way back down, all right? And we're going to have E followed by D sharp. Okay, so here, again, here's D. D sharp is going to be 1 fret higher, so there's your D sharp. After that, you have a new accidental called a natural sign. And that just means that the D that you just played, D sharp in this case, is going to now revert to its original location, 3rd fret. The reason that the natural sign is there is because the general rule of thumb with sharp signs is that once a note has been labeled with the sharp sign, that note is going to it's going to remain sharp until you finish the rest of the measure. Once you've completed the measure, then the note reverts to its original location. But because in this example, D sharp to D natural, because those two notes are within that same measure, the natural sign needs to be applied there so that you're playing D where the composer wants you to play D. If that sharp sign were not there, or if the second D did not have that natural sign there, you would need to play D as a D sharp again. It would be D sharp followed by D sharp again, because you're in the same measure. But because the natural sign is there, we're now going to move down to the 3rd fret, D sharp, or D natural. And that continues to apply to the rest of the notes. Following that note, we have a C sharp. Again, the very next note is a C with a natural sign, and if that natural sign were not there, you would play C sharp again because you're in the same measure. But because there's a natural sign there, we're going to go down to your C natural, or just C. And then you continue on through, and the same rule applies for the rest of the notes. It's just what we call a chromatic scale. Now let's talk about the last note, E. That last note is notated as a half note. If you remember, a half note is 2 counts, okay? But we already went over the time signature, and the time signature says that every measure is going to have 3 counts, right? Because the top number 3, you count to 3. So this is actually an error on the in the book. That half note is that last measure is an incomplete measure, because a half note is 2 counts, but there's got to be a 3rd count to finish off the measure. Okay, so we're going to change that half note to a dotted half note. A dotted half note is just a half note with a dot. And a dotted half note is 3 counts. I'm not going to go over what the dot means. Just for now, if you see a dotted half note, it's going to be worth 3 counts. And that is everything that needs to be explained in this lesson. Let's go ahead and run through this lesson together. We'll do it slowly. Here's your tempo. whoops. Nice and steady, okay? And we're playing 16th notes, so I'll count the 16th notes on my count. And then I'm going to play it again at a faster tempo so you can hear what those 16th notes are actually, so you can hear the 16th notes in a, well, you know what? I'll just play it again a second time and you'll see what I mean. For now, we're just going to run through the notes at a steady tempo. Well, technically we are playing 16th notes. 3, E, and 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, E, and 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, E, and 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, E, and 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, E, and 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, E, and stop. Technically, you have to make sure you let that last note, which is again a dotted half note, ring for all 3 counts. We played that very, very slowly. So if we were to play this at the same tempo we were playing everything else, it would be much, much faster. So we're going to take the same pulse. I'll say that. 1, 2, 3. We'll slow it down just a hair. 2, 3. But now we're going to establish these counts as a quarter note as opposed to a 16th note, which is what we just did. So now instead of 1, E, and we now 1, 2, 3, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 1 E and that's going to be the tempo that you play at lesson number 37. So let me show you what that would sound like. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, stop. And that would be an example of 16th notes at whatever tempo that was. Okay? And that is that concludes this video, and I will see all of you in lesson number 38.